Hi. Welcome to our Composer Voice listening party. Today we're going to be listening to this episode of Composer's Voice, which will be presenting 15 Minutes of Fame at the ARIA project. And this one is featuring the soprano Mary Hubbell. And Mary is with us now. Let me bring her on. Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, are you excited to be broadcasted live in New York City?
I am excited to see this and hear what people think. It's such a fun project. So much fun.
So yeah, I think this is the first time you're hearing your recordings.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a little bit. I'm not very good about watching myself, and it's hard. So it'll be difficult, but I am excited. It's enough time has passed that I can say, oh yeah, that was great.
You were fabulous.
Thank you.
I had to edit the video. I always tell everybody, I have to edit for hours and hours and hours and hours. So,
of course, yeah.
If I don't like it, it's a very painful process. Yours is not. It's really.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your hard work. This is a huge thing for you to put together. You do this a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming down into New York City, into the M&N studios and recording. That was a lot of fun too.
I've never been there before. What a cool space and just available to everyone. And I love that. I love coming back to New York. It's wonderful.
Well, we'll have to bring you back again.
Okay.
Meanwhile, talking about some New Yorkers, we've got Beth Anderson here. Hi, Beth.
How do you do?
Hi, Beth.
How's it going?
Hello.
And who else do we have? We have Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Tell everybody where you're from.
I'm from North Yorkshire in England.
So we're today we're spanning the Great Pond, right?
Yes, definitely.
Why don't Mary? Why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. I'm originally from South Carolina, and I found myself in New York, where I met you many years ago. Was working on my DMA in voice at the City University of New York Graduate Center. Previously, I'd studied in the Royal Conservatory in The Hague, so I used to live in the Netherlands. It was a long time ago, beginning of the century. And now I live near Amherst, Massachusetts, with my husband, composer Greg Brown, and I do a lot of teaching in the area. I just covered a sabbatical at the University of Massachusetts. I've done that a few times. I've taught at Smith College for many years. I've taught at Westfield State, and I teach privately. And I just sing whenever anyone asks me because I love to sing. So there you go.
Hear that, everybody? Send her lots of scores.
Yeah.
So what type of stuff do you sing?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think these days my deepest love is, I think, art song, particularly French art song. I wrote my dissertation on Reynaldo Hahn. But I love new music. When I lived in the Netherlands, I did a lot of new music. There's a big new music scene there. I sang in the Gaudiamos Festival in Amsterdam, and with the Apeldoorn Festival, I worked with Louis Andriessen, and we did a big thing with Steve Reich. So I did a lot of new music. I used to do a lot of early music as well, which I also really love. But these days, it's a lot of chamber. I do a lot of oratorio work. A lot of Haydn in my life. I was joking around. I said, I didn't know Haydn was going to be so important to me as a professional, but that's what I get hired to do. It's funny. Yeah. And I do a lot of art song whenever I can, because like I said, that's a great love of mine.
What type of art song do you like to sing?
Well, we just did a big festival for Fauré last year at UMass because it was 100 years since he died. And so we did several concerts. My husband's a composer, so I sing his music quite a bit. I'm putting together a recording that I'm planning to do this summer in August, and it's going to be 4 sets of art song written for me, and all the texts are by female American poets like Edna Simmons and Millay, Sarah Teasdale, Georgia Douglas Johnson, and a collection of women from the Harlem Renaissance. So I'm going to record those sets this summer. So a lot of modern works. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And let's move over to Beth. Hi, Beth.
How do you do?
She's a fellow New York Cityan.
Now.
Here.
Yes.
Now. Where were you before New York?
I was born in Kentucky and left as soon as I was legal. And I went to school in Northern California, Oakland, Berkeley, San Francisco, Davis, there. And then I moved to New York in 75. So I've certainly been here longer than I've been anywhere else.
And what you been doing in New York?
Writing piles of music, include massive lots of songs. Anyway, yeah. Well, for 20 years, I accompanied dancers, Graham and Ailey and Cunningham and everybody who let me, Lamone, everybody. And then I did medical billing for 20 years because I blew out my arms, hands, wrists, elbows, and everything else playing for dancers. Wow. And now I just teach piano, which is the ultimate in not doing a whole lot.
I don't know about that. There's some up and coming pianists here and there. And Maria, tell us where you hail from.
Well, I'm from North Yorkshire in England, so very, very many miles away. And
so anyway, it's night there, right? Oh, not quite. Well, it's
quite.
evening.
Yes, 7 o'clock in the evening. Yes. Still light.
I'm sorry, are you anywhere near Swaledale?
Yes, not too far away at all. I'm in Richmond.
I've been wanting to come there for about 15 years because I write swales. I write pennyroyal swale, oboe swale, Minnesota swale, this swale, that swale. And I always wanted to go to Swaledale and have my picture taken in front of a sign for like an antique sign for Swaledale, and then put that on the imaginary cover of the imaginary CD that nobody ever buys anymore. But that's, and I think my husband's actually going to bring me. So maybe we should get together when I actually get there.
That's a fantastic idea. Yes, very close to Swaledale. It's very beautiful. But not in the winter, it's very deep with snow. So summer's a good time.
When you take that picture, Beth, make sure to send it to me. It doesn't have to be on the cover anymore. Now it's all over the internet, right? Push it far and wide.
We can hope.
And so Maria, I forget, is this the first time you've been on 15 Minutes of Fame?
Yes, it is. Yes, it was my first piece. And I'm very grateful that Mary chose it. Yes, it's the first time. I'm very excited to be here, so thank you.
What brought you to the project?
Just looking for competitions. So I used to be a primary school teacher, and I decided to go back to composition about 5 years ago. And so I had a private tutor, and he suggested looking around for different competitions, and he suggested Facebook. There's lots of information there. So I joined Facebook and I found your project. So I was really pleased to find it.
Awesome. Yeah. It's always interesting where people pick things up from. I guess, Facebook is usually it's from Composer site. Yes. Or what's the other place? Ulysses, that they're out in Europe. That's they do that too. Cool. So, I encourage you to write for many more 15 Minutes of Fame. We have lots of calls.
I submitted for Coco Lau, so I've sent a piece for her.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm really excited. That's going to be a great, I'm looking forward to that collaboration.
Yes, it is. Yes, it will be.
Fun and wild. So this is Composer's Voice. Just for all those who know, it's a 30-minute TV show that I've that I've put together now on cable access here in New York. Mary Hubbell was talking about when she first met me. That was actually the second iteration of Composer's Voice. That was at Jan Hus Church, right?
Yes, that was such a cool church. Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Yeah, that was we were putting together chamber concerts there every second Sunday for an hour.
Yeah, and I did a 15 minutes of fame with Alice Jones, the flute player, and who I'm still working with, and she's now a dean at Juilliard.
Oh, fabulous!
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, great.
And Beth, we've been collaborating for a long while. If I
only you know when when this started, I don't.
Yeah, I think you were on some of the first iterations of Composer's Voice when it was like a traditional chamber concert series with two halves and intermission. We used to feature a singular composer and then have a couple of different composers that would contrast and complement the music. But that was a while ago.
I think I had Belgian tango played with violin and piano there, and possibly a piano piece, a little waltz or something.
I think we did one of your swales.
Wow.
I'm sure of it because I remember when I love the idea. I love the swale idea. Well, you want to say a little bit about it? You got a minute?
A swale, according to me, is a meadow or a marsh where a lot of wild plants grow together because the earth is rich and there's a water source. I do not think of it as a bog or a dark, wet, dank, smelly place. That is not it. My picture is more like the meadow in Bambi where the deer and the little skunk named Flower play. That's my picture of a swale. And I know some people do not see it that way.
They definitely sound the way you described them.
I use it. I started using the word in 1984 because there was a horse named Swale that won the Kentucky Derby. And I use it to mean a kind of a collage, a musical collage, because there could be all kinds of different plants in a swale. And the same daisies in one swale can actually show up in another swale. So you're not limited by cutting things up in this piece. You could transpose them, do them backwards in a different swale.
This giant mix and plethora of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think our show is about to start. Let me see if I can get it on here. Hold on. Up, there's some snow.
Coming up next.
I'll be happy when they start putting the titles back. They've just changed their platform a little. It's all good. And Composer's Voice. There we go. This episode of Composer's Voice presents 15 Minutes of Fame featuring Mary Hubbell. 15 Minutes of Fame is 15 works written for a specific musician.
Well, I'm Mary Hubbell, and let's see. I'm from South Carolina, and I went to Boston College, and then I did my master's in Santa Barbara. And then I spent 4 years doing a degree at the Royal Conservatory in The Hague. And I think that's where I got that new music bug, was in Holland, because let me tell you, you think weird things happen in New York. New music concerts. I have done the weirdest things on stage in Holland. It's so funny. But yeah, there's this festival every year in Apeldoorn, the Young Composers Festival. It used to be Louis Andriessen was in charge. Obviously, he's passed. But I worked with Louis 3 years. I would go do that festival, and all these young composers would write pieces for us, and we would spend all week trying to learn them and then present them. And my teacher, Gerda van Zelm, she'd worked a lot with Louis and with like Kurtag and people like that. And so she was a really good guide for me to sort of learn how to sort of look at a score and not be freaked out and be like, okay, taking it apart and figure out what are the elements. And I learned a lot doing that festival at how to approach new music. And just being in Holland for 4 years was great. And I've been living in Western Mass since 2013. I've taught at Smith. I've taught at Smith for about 7 years. I've taught at UMass Amherst for the last 8 years. Also, I've taught at Westfield, Fitchburg. I've just done a lot of teaching in Western Mass. And there is new music happening. Not as much maybe as here, and maybe not as avant-garde. There's some really good composers in Western Mass, don't get me wrong. But getting to do kind of the really weird stuff.
Right.
I like to do the weird stuff.
Yeah.
And I haven't done it. I feel like I miss it a little bit in Holland. But anyway.
I'm Kirsten Johnson. I'm a pianist and I'm a composer. Growing up, I lived in Okinawa, Japan for 3 years. And as a young student, I had Japanese culture classes. And part of that was learning about Japanese haiku and how to write haiku. Since then, I've always had a love of Japanese poetry. And when this call came up for the 15 minutes of fame, writing pieces for 4 singers, I thought, well, it might be nice just to write a set of pieces, a song cycle on haiku. So I delved into the haiku book that I have of Japanese women poets, and I chose 4 haiku that I liked. And I was really pleased that the piece that I wrote, Crying, was picked up by Mary Hubbell for this call. So I'll just read you the text that Mary's about to sing. It's by a woman poet called Kaiwai Chigetsu, who lived from 1634 to 1719. And it reads, crying as though the sole owner of all loneliness, a dove in autumn.
Crying, crying, as though the sole owner of all loneliness, a dove in autumn, a dove in autumn, as though the sole owner of all loneliness. Going by Nicole DeMeo. Going, going, going. No, I don't want to go. Going, going, going. Going, going, going. Going, going, going. Gone. Na, 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 stay away, wait, I don't really want to talk about this. Why can't you just leave me alone for a while? There's just so much going on in my mind. How come every time that we get here, I feel so alone? How come every time that we get here, I feel so alone? How come every time that we get here, I feel so alone? How come every time that we get here, I feel so alone?
My name is Joyce Solomon Mormon. I'm an African American composer of new music. I have written one opera, several orchestral works, chamber music, and art songs. As an art song composer, I enjoy setting the poems of Black poets. Dudley Randall was a member of the Black arts movement in the 1960s. His most famous poem is the Ballad of Birmingham. Shape of the Invisible is a nature poem which I set for soprano solo. She begins the performance by blowing through her mouth, and then she sings the words of this short poem, after which she again blows through her mouth and ends the performance by repeating the poem's final statement.
The Shape of the Invisible by Joyce Solomon Mormon. At dawn, upon the snow, the delicate imprint left by the sleeping body of the wind. Left by the sleeping body of the wind. The Old Pond by Shen-Yu Huang. An old silent, silent, silent pond. A frog jump, 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 jumps into the pond. Splash! Silence, silence, silence. Again, the Old Pond by Matsu Basho. Camellia by Maria Collings. Falling upon earth, pure water spills from the cup, falling upon earth. Pure water spills from the cup.
Hello, my name is Beth Anderson. I wrote a song called 8, and it's based on an Edna St. Vincent Millay poem that was published about 1922. And it's about a lady in a marriage and how she's not feeling it at all. She wonders why she got so excited over falling in love and getting married and having a house and all these things that people get excited about. But now she says all she's doing is washing the dishes and going to sleep at 8 o'clock. You know, what is this?
8 by Beth Anderson. Was it for this I uttered prayers, and sobbed and cursed and kicked the stairs, that now, domestic as a plate, I should retire at 8:30, at 8:30. So this is Even More So by Martino Rappelli. Even more, even more so, even more so. Because of being alone, alone. The moon is a friend. The moon is a
Hello everybody, this is Carlotta Ferrari, a composer from Italy. My piece for solo voice is called A Death Angel, from a poem by Annie Hennings, the German cabaret player and artist and poet, where she speaks about a death angel in her room, and yet she keeps on dancing until she's out of breath. The piece features 2 sections. The first one, inspired by the Dies Irae melody, is about death. It mentions the death angel, while the last part is the dancing part, where she dances, and in the end, the singer actually runs out of breath. Thank you for listening.
A Death Angel by Carlotta Ferrari. A death angel stands in the middle of my room. A death angel stands in the middle of my room. Yet I dance, 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 I dance, I breath, out of breath, out of breath.
My name is Marilena Zlatanu, originally Greek, but having lived most of my adult life in Norway. My musical studies started in Thessaloniki, Greece, continued in London, Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and when I came to Norway, to the State Conservatory and the Opera School. I'm grateful to say that I have had a very active and still enjoy a performing active musical life. The particular piece, I'm Nobody, is the amazing poetry of Emily Dickinson inspired me to enhance her unexpected message with music.
I'm nobody. Who are you? 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 Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Then there's a pair of us. Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd finish us, you know. They'd finish us. How dreary to be somebody, how public, like a frog. To tell your name, the livelong day to an admiring bog. To tell your name, the livelong day to an admiring bog.
Hello, my name is Ljubica Dančević, and I'm a musician, violinist, singer, and composer from Belgrade, Serbia. I'm very glad that my composition, Lullaby for the Unblossomed, has been chosen for 15 Minutes of Fame with Mary Hubbell. The composition speaks about unrequited love, and the idea came to me when I was walking in a park. There was some wind, and I was thinking about my experiences and about my memories, and accidentally I stepped on a snail.
How sadly carries away all the sweet words. Oh, my soul, my heart, my love. He veered off course and into the grass, and after the rain trampled a snail.
I'm David Hynek in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. I've loved E.E. Cummings' poetry since I was in college, and over the years I've written 2 sets of songs based on his work. No Time Ago is a relatively straightforward poem set simply using only 4 pitches, 2 in the first stanza and then adding 1 in each successive stanza.
No time ago, or else a life, walking in the dark, I met Christ Jesus. My heart flopped Haru no Mori by Thomas Freiberg.
Hello, my name is Hector Vera from San Antonio, Texas. Snapdragon belongs to a collection titled Daily Urban Haiku. This collection by Jeff Anderson focuses on pairing city settings with haiku. I'd like to thank Jeff Anderson for allowing me to use his text for this piece.
Late night, farmers sleep, the last Psycho Puzzle by Bracha Bedil. Cross word shirt. Cross word shirt. Cave I cross word. Cave I. Ha 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 ha. He sat there on the fence with his shadow. An astonishment of eternity. Lincoln Person were silent as and the fence absorbs unresolved puzzle, cave eyes, and lonely friendship.
Hello, my name is Dr. Stanley Hoffman, and I am a 65-year-old composer and arranger who lives in Framingham, Massachusetts. The text I chose is Lament, written by the 11th century writer Solomon Ibn Gabriel in Hebrew, and I translated it into English. It is a sad run requiring a slow tempo. Because of the 1 minute time limit, I ended up with not one but two songs, Lament being a perfectly viable standalone excerpt from Behold the Sun at Twilight Time. I've done this before with a violin piece called Poem and Lamentations, where the poem can stand alone.
Behold the sun at twilight time, red as though it clad itself in
All right. Hey, Mary, how's it going?
Good.
Like, what's it like to watch yourself?
Oh my God, it's hard to watch myself. No, but it was really fun. That was back in September, I think we did that, or
Yeah.
October. It's like, oh my gosh, it was like meeting old friends again musically. I was like, oh, I remember working on that, and that was so hard, and I nailed that, and I wish that gone a little better or whatever. But and overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's a very cool collection of songs. I really appreciate what the composers offered. It was a huge variety.
Yeah. It was a great set. I mean, it's every once in a while, right. It was back in September. People like forget, like the call happened like more than a year and a half ago, I think, if I remember correctly. And and then got to recruit the sopranos and doing all this. It's like this is like the apex at the end. There's still some stuff.
And then it's over so fast, all that work,
Right, the recording, right. I know.
It's over so fast. But wow, I loved it. I loved hearing the composers talk about their pieces. It was so much fun. And people from all over the world. How cool is that?
Yeah. It's the fun thing I like about this project, And in fact, like one of the reasons why I love it to be online is, like, you remember, we would do 15 Minutes of Fame, and we would premiere it, in New York City at Jan Hus, which is great, but it was hard because it's hard to travel to New York City for 1 minute.
Yeah.
And when you're all over the world, but so this format's better. We get Lubka's, she's watching us. I'm trying to think where she's from now. It's Europe.
Yeah. Thank you.
And she's just joining us. Yeah. And let's bring on the composers too. Here, there's Maria and Beth. So what do you guys think? Okay?
I did good.
Yeah.
They have to be nice because I'm here.
It's great to hear such a variety of compositions from everyone.
Yeah.
It's amazing the different styles and techniques and approaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this often, but Mary, I also got to just congratulate you, because first of all, you don't have to pick things so eclectic, right?
That makes it fun.
It makes it fun, but it just shows the breadth of how you can dabble, And everybody forgets that we recorded this in the Eminence Studios live.
Yeah.
So she's going between genre and aesthetic like every 2 or 3 minutes, something new.
Yeah. I don't have perfect pitch, so I had to sort of cue myself a couple of times. I hope that's not too distracting, but but I liked the challenge of trying to keep myself in tune. And Maria, particularly difficult because you had a key change.
Yeah.
I remember but I worked very hard on that, because when singers, we sing with instruments usually. It's very rare for us to sing a cappella like that. So that takes just took a lot of practice and making sure your support is there, because it's very, very easy to go out of tune. It's like this is just a little instrument in here with the air coming through, You have to know very clearly what you want. And the other challenge for singers, you probably know, is we can't really hear ourselves very well. We can't really rely on listening to ourselves. We have to rely on our technique and our physical feeling. And then you sort of get resonance in the room and you kind of work with that, but it's very indirect. So you always feel like you're sort of groping in the dark for a little while at first, and then you can start to make sense of how it should feel when it's really right in the middle of the pitch. But so that was another really big challenge, and that was another reason I wanted to do it, Rob, and you asked me to do it, because I thought, God, singing a cappella is hard without that harmonic underpinning all the time, and I really want to try to meet that challenge, because that doesn't happen very often for us. So I enjoyed that.
And so, yeah, anyway, you had a pitch that was sort of like keeping you, your guide, right? But what happens when you do lose your pitch in the middle of a piece or larger things, or like, as a vocalist, what do you do?
Well, usually I'm with other instruments, so it's not going to really happen that much. But if that happened, luckily these pieces are a minute long. You just start over. Like, because if you get off, it's going to be really hard to come back in without. But I did use the AirPod a little bit to pitch, but then I would take it out because that felt weird, and I wanted to use the room, the resonance of the room. So I didn't use it a lot. I just use it at the beginning, usually, sometimes in the middle if I had to. But yeah, it just takes practice. Luckily, they're short pieces.
Right. I work with a lot of chamber musicians, so it's a different experience to bring them into the studio, because the studio is very different from a hall. Like you were talking about. So I'm a singer too. I do these things.
Right, of course. Yeah.
And you get into a hall, and you're right. You got to kind of fill the hall, right? And then that's how you kind of you sort of embody your voice into the sound space. Right. And then once you get there, then, well, for me, you get there and then you go. I drift. I definitely drift in pitch, especially when I'm singing a cappella.
Yeah.
But, you just, it's all relative, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the studio, it's different, right? It's a different sound. It's a little drier.
It is. That was a challenge.
No. Mm-hmm. Beth Maria, what you like your pieces? Yeah.
Yes,
what do you guys?
Yeah, thank you, Mary. I have a question. The psycho puzzle piece, did you find that really difficult to learn? It sounded really complicated.
I did at first. I did because I was really trying to be very faithful to the score. Luckily, the composer had added a file, an audio file of her doing it. Right. And I realized that she was a bit more proximate, and so it was more like a gesture. Some of the rhythmic things. So I hope she doesn't mind that I might not have been super, because I try to be very precise, but I felt like with her guide, I was like, oh, I can get the idea of this gesture, how she wants me to move from happy to sad to scared. Like these are sort of the crazy movements from place to place. And so I freed myself up a little bit from, I tried to be faithful to what was on the page, but yeah, I have to say I probably wasn't perfectly on it, but I tried to gather the embodiment. But I was thinking about the part in the beginning, Rob, that you played of me talking about living in Holland and doing kind of wild stuff. And that's the kind of thing that I think I used to do more of. So I kind of enjoy. I was like, "Oh, this is fun. I'm going to be psycho. It's going to be great." That's why I chose it, to like have this completely wild presentation.
Right. So let me ask this to we'll start with Beth and so forth. Like when you're writing a piece, right? Where's because it's like when I'm writing and I'm doing composition, especially for musicians, for me, there's a flexibility. Like I understand it's being interpreted, so I almost always write in an interpretive sort of idea. But how do you, when you write, do you like things to be exactly as it is on the page, or?
I think, like most composers, I generally want what I've written to come out on the other end within the performance, but especially with things that are breathed or dramatic or all spoken lines within songs or something, you write in a sort of an approximate rhythm so that you can tell which beat things sort of happen on, but you expect the performer to do their own thing to get it to feel right to them, because because I say it a certain way doesn't mean that you would.
Right Sort of the interpretation from the artist, right?
Yeah.
And how about you, Maria?
Yeah, I think interpretation is essential. It brings the piece to life. It's great that as a composer I can write down lots of details and performance notes, but I think it is the performer, the singer, or the musician who brings the piece to life and really makes the piece what it is and makes it their own. So I think the interpretation is really important, and anything they can bring and add to the piece, I'd want that as an essential, really. And I'm trying to experiment with ways of trying to make scores more open so the performer can feel they can add their own interpretation into it.
And so, and let me bounce this to you, Mary, because there's this, like you said, you for Braca's piece, you listen to her recording. Because I know a lot of people, they want to hear the recordings so they can imitate it, and especially as a singer, we're kind of, imitation is almost within our wheelhouse, right? I mean,
yeah.
So what do you think about that? Do you prefer, like, you hear a recording and you imitate it, or would you rather bring your own?
I mean, there's kind of like living in that gray area of sort of like, I want to be really faithful to what the composer wants is written down. I really want my performance to reflect that, but I also need to sort of bring myself into the picture. So without distorting or without losing the integrity of the piece. Most of the time when I'm learning a piece of music, I like to learn it from the score. I like to learn it as well as I can. And I might listen to recordings for inspiration and like, oh, okay, I could do that there. That's an interesting idea. But I do prefer to not rely too much on a recording. But in Braca's, I mean, that piece was so unusual that it was great to have her guide, because it helped me quite a bit. And
it's from the composer too, right?
Exactly. But you do have to be careful a little bit when you're learning a piece of music. You don't want to be too imitative of another singer. That's important to bring your own yourself to it. Yeah.
Excellent.
So you got it within reason. I mean, you got to do what the composer wants, but also have your personality there as well. And I think, as Maria said, I think that's what most composers want.
Excellent. Well, ladies,
so
thank you for joining. This was a
Thank
lot
you.
of fun.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thanks to everyone who watched, and thanks to everyone who submitted scores. It was hard to choose. I liked a lot of it. And if I didn't choose one of your, don't take it personally, because it's just sort of, there was such a embarrassment of riches a little bit there. I had to pick something would be really good for me. Yeah.
And the total, we got 160 scores for that call.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's divided up between four sopranos. Mary Hubbell, Jennifer Green, that's Ruberio. That's her name.
Yes, I remember her. She's great.
Yes, yeah. And this weekend, believe it or not, I'm running around New York City recording Carrie Lee Pearson. She's doing 2 sets, so
right.
we'll be filming her for a whole bunch of recordings. So all the composers out there listening, don't despair. There's more selections happening. And then we have another soprano that'll be picking pieces, hopefully in the fall. So yeah. So that's part of the sort of mission too, is to try and get as many people played as possible. And it's not personal, like you said. Sometimes it just doesn't fit.
Yeah. You should do we could do an anniversary show sometime where we go back. I still have my scores from doing with Alice. We could.
Yeah.
Back.
Anytime, anywhere, Mary.
Wouldn't that be great?
I'm up for it.
Once, and you want to do it again.
Get Allison, yeah. We could. She's the dean now. We can record in Juilliard. I like that idea. But yeah, no, that would be a lot of fun. And you know, and and yeah, so all the composers should know Coco's call is open for another day. Right, if you know, right for that. That's awesome. And we'll have lots of more calls that are coming up. Great. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
for your work.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you guys so much. It was great fun.
And I'll see you all at the next one.
See you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.